Hey guys, D Smooth here, back at it with a quick rant video. And today I want to talk about why EA is such a dumb company. Contrary to popular belief, large corporations don't want to make money, they just don't want to spend it. They're already at the top, they just don't want to go down. So they develop this cheap mentality of just be cheap, don't take any risks. And this is counterproductive because a fundamental part of business is that you have to spend money in order to make money. And you're not going to spend money on important things like bettering your business or satisfying your fan base. You're going to spend it on stupid things like celebrity cameos or canceling cult classic beloved series. Like sometimes big corporations will cancel one of their lower products, even though it was profitable, just because it wasn't as profitable as they wanted it to be. That's dumb. That's dumb. But that's what big corporations will do because in their eyes, they're all about save money, save money, save money. No, this cheapness mentality leads you to make stupid mistakes. This is why many Hollywood films will often do the same thing over and over and over and become super watered down and formulaic because that what worked in the past. Why take any risk? Here's the problem: what worked in the past isn't always going to work in the future. So at the end of the day, people end up getting bored seeing the same thing over and over, and they leave. Inevitably, you're going to have to start taking risks. This is why the whole cheapness mentality of don't take risks, save money thing, it just never works. In fact, one thing EA messed up on was not fixing the Titanfall servers. When they got attacked by all these hackers, you know what they did? Nothing. They just ignored it. Well, Titanfall was never the super bestseller for us. So we're just gonna let it burn. I was like, well, are you retarded? You know what this is gonna do to your PR? Why? Because they're cheap. They just don't want to spend the extra dollars. Which, by the way, a lot of the times the the whole saving thing isn't by much. In fact, it would have been super easy to fix those servers, but they didn't. They didn't because they just wanted to focus all on Apex, which leads me to another issue with big corporations. The whole cheapness mentality leads them to put all their eggs in one basket. You know how that goes. When you put all your eggs in one basket, the whole basket goes over and now everything's a mess. In a business, you always want to have multiple projects going on. Of course, some are going to be more important than others, but you want to have as many different projects as possible. These guys, they ignore all that. They just ignore it. Well, it's not as profitable as we want it to be, so we're just going to cancel it. I mean, that's what that mentality leads you to ultimately do. It leads you to make stupid decisions. This is the number one problem with EA. This is the number one problem with Disney. Number one problem with every big corporation nowadays. This cheapness mentality, it's counterproductive. Eventually, you're going to have to spend money on something that matters, like hiring more staff members, establishing more teams in your own business. Bettering the company allows you to also better your fan base, which will get you more money. And this mentality of, well, we don't want to take time to wait for the product to be done. Let's just rush it out now. Disastrous. That's why Marvel films are they look like trash now because they're just rushing them out. They don't take time to truly work on it and get the effects right. Same thing with EA and video games. They rush their games. They just send them out before it's ready. And it looks like trash. And another way of being cheap, another problem this cheapness will lead you is to focus on things that really aren't that important. Let's say how good the graphics are, how good the graphics are. Like like Sony, they focus solely on appeasing casuals. And by doing that, they focus on the little things that don't matter, like graphics, story. In a video game, that stuff isn't that big of a deal. It's all about gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. But you wanted to go for the casual audience because that's cheaper. Well, once you get those casuals, they buy the game, they play it, and it's like, meh, I'm done. And then they never come back to it ever. No replayability. Meanwhile, you got games like Elden Ring, who has so much content in it. Because why? Because the developers focused on what actually mattered. They didn't focus on things like graphics, didn't focus things on presentation. They focused on things that mattered, like the gameplay. This whole cheapness mentality leads you to make constant mistake after mistake after mistake. Some some companies will focus solely on their PR team. In their eyes, as long as we get good publicity, we'll be in the clear. And they'll start hiring activists because, well, we'll have good publicity if we hire activists. That does not go down well. Politics, by their very nature, are divisive, and you end up dividing people. If you're going to handle politics, you got to be respectful on both sides. Most companies just, most smart companies will just ignore politics entirely and just not put them in their content. They just won't put them in their games, they won't put them in their movies, they won't put them in their comics or whatever, and they'll just never touch on them. That's what many smart companies will do, like the Riververse, completely ignore politics and never talk about it. This cheapness mentality leads you into making mistakes. You have to spend money to make money. Spend money on what matters. As long as you're spending money on what's important, on what matters, then you'll make it. Here's another mistake that EA especially makes. They release games on the worst possible days. Why? Because they wanted to catch the people's attention now. Hey, this game is out right now. Get it right now. And even if it is done, you release it in the worst time possible because, well, they just wanted to make the money back right now. It's like, it's the worst possible time. You release Titanfall 2 the same weekend as Call of Duty and Battlefield. Stupid. Stupid. And then the game, it gets buried by its competition. And it's like, you didn't, you put it in the worst possible day. And even if the game even if they put money into the game itself, they won't put money into the actual marketing. They won't put money into the marketing. Same thing with a lot of movies. They'll put, like, you get movies with massive budgets with really good effects, but they got like no advertisements, like barely any advertisements. And then they come out as like, hey, did you see the movie? What movie? You barely even advertise. Like, this cheapness mentality will lead you into these type of mistakes. This is the number one problem with corporations. The whole cheapness mentality causes you to lose your soul. It causes you to start thinking like the competition. Just do the same thing over and over. Just release projects unfinished. Ignore your fan base. And it leads you into making stupid decisions, man. This is the problem with corporations. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you guys think below.